This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. On the show, you'll hear from leading Australian business owners as they share the lessons they've learned building their companies. You'll learn from their successes as well as some of the challenges they faced along the way. We also talk to experts from a range of fields who share specialised techniques you can use to improve your business. I'm your host, Savan Tuna, and I'm a director at Alexander Spencer, and I'm really passionate about helping Australian businesses succeed. We've all seen brands promise to change the world. But how do you actually build a business that gives 100% of its profit to impact and still keeps the lights on? Today, we're sitting down with Daniel Flynn, co-founder of Thankyou, the brand that's rethinking what purpose in business really looks like. In this episode, Daniel shares how Thankyou built purpose into its governance, how they fund growth without profit, and what the future of truly impact-driven business might be. Let's dive in. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me on The Bottom Line.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Now, for those that don't know your story just yet, they may have bought your product, but they may not know the story. Tell us a little about yourself and Thankyou.
I'm one of the co-founders of Thankyou, and it's a joy to be able to co-found something versus start it all yourself. I've got to walk this journey out for a very long time with my co-founder, Justine, who was my girlfriend. We dated for 1 month when we started, and we're now married with 2 kids, one on the way to any day now, a couple of weeks' time. Also got to walk this out with Jared Burns, who was with us for over 10 years on this story before he stepped into his next chapter. And this has been a wild ride of taking an idea and making it a reality. For those that don't know, Thankyou is a social enterprise. We sell consumer goods like hand wash, body wash, cleaning products, deodorants. We started in water, which we may touch on. We exited water, but as a collective, there's about 50 Thankyou products in market. And to date, we've raised and given over $18.55 million to help end extreme poverty. So, that's what we do, and look forward to diving into the journey.
Many people do know that Thankyou is a 100% to impact brand, but what's the one piece of the story or something that they don't know about the brand?
I sort of bump into 2 types of people. People that are like, there's probably 3. There's people who've never heard of us, and that's okay. The second group sort of, oh yeah, I've seen the product and it's nice and that's amazing. The third group of they're kind of they've heard how this has been built, because this isn't just a story of great product and giving profit and making a difference. It's really a story of people and this people movement behind it. And some of the moves we've taken, which are people powered and things the industry have not seen before, this is how we've created the social enterprise that is Thankyou today. There are many examples of this, but one moment in our history, which not everyone knows about, is that both Coles and Woolworths, which are big retailers in our country to have 70% market share, they said no to the Thankyou brand for 5 years. And that's a lot of years. It's actually a lot of no's to turn up to meetings for, but we were trying everything. And our view was, well, we need them because the majority of Australians, that's where they buy their groceries. And so after a lot of planning, we launched our boldest campaign at the time, which was a video that said, hey, everyone, for 5 years, Coles and Woolies have said no, but 2 weeks from today, we're presenting to both of them. And we are asking you to jump onto their social channels to say if they stock the Thankyou products that you would buy it. So we launched this video. It goes like 2013 viral. People sing, dance, rap, upload their posts to the Coles and Woolies social media accounts. And it was so wild. I mean, there was like 120 media features that cover the story. One of the awkward interviews I was on, and awkward only because I was so nervous, it was on 3AW, and the interviewer was like, Daniel, you can't put the 2 biggest supermarkets who don't like each other in the same sentence. And I was nervous. I was like, oh, Wesley, our graphic designer, he didn't find it too hard. He just did it. And so we end up flying 2 helicopters, one in Melbourne, one in Sydney, and they carried these 20,000 square foot signs that said, dear Coles, dear Woolies, thank you for changing the world, in brackets if you say yes. And they flew over the cities and then around the head offices for half an hour.
That is amazing.
And this is like, thank you. Those 2 pilots donated their time. They flew for free. Like, because we couldn't afford it. I mean, this is a story of people helping people. And, Coles and Woolies said yes, actually shockingly fast, like 5 hours after the meeting. The other one was 3 hours after the meeting. And it was so shocking, it really, to all of our supply chain, to the whole industry. I don't think we even thought it would go that well. I think we thought one might say yes, not both, not that fast. And critics, you know, on the internet and even in media said this is collectivism. It's never going to translate into real world sales. And thankfully, they were wrong.
Take me through the one of those meetings with Coles or Woolworths. So you obviously grabbed their attention, and then now you're probably going in there with a little bit more confidence. But I'd love to know, not many of our business owners do deals with Bunnings and Big W's, or there's bigger chains, Woolworths and Coles. What's it like? Take us through that meeting. And you're sitting in, what's a boardroom like? Is it a boardroom? Is it a meeting room? Is it on Teams? I'd love for our business owners just to get a snippet of what that was like.
Those two meetings are obviously off the back of a pretty intense moment. So naturally, a few more people turn up in the room. Prior to that, and even post, and we have, you know, I would say this of retailers right across Australia, great meetings with great people. And the more you're in business, you realize like, wow, it's people. The bigger the business, it's people. And really great people. I think some of the way that business plays out creates some really tricky dynamics. And so, for 5 years, it wasn't like we met bad people and they said no, and then we met the good people and they said yes. Really, for 5 years, the problem that we had, and many people listening, and really anyone with an idea has this problem. Initially, like, the idea is great, guys. You want to sell product, you want to give all the profit to help people, and you want to help end poverty. Love it. But you're up against big brands investing big money and the millions of dollars for launches and summer campaigns, and you don't have that. And it's the classic kind of cold start problem of like, you're a dream, you don't have the money to sort of make it happen. And if you did, that might lower the risk for a retailer to say, okay, well, if you're going to invest all this money in a huge campaign, sure. We had to put the cart before the horse. And so when we did that, it created some awkwardness at the start of two meetings because, the helicopters are flowing, the media's watching. And, we walked in and we said, look, we may come across like guerrilla antagonistic marketers, and we're not. We're people on a mission, and we are here off the back of a campaign that solves the problem you said we had. And the problem you said, and not just you, retailers in general, the problem retailers in general said was, well, it's too much of a risk to put it on the shelf because we don't know if it's going to sell or not, right? And that's a risk. So this campaign is removing that risk because now there's essentially pre-commitments from people. You just heard from people they're going to buy it, and at scale, and it's wild. If you do your bit, we think that the rest will be history. And professionally, our timing was frustrating because the way retailers work is in range review, and we were outside of range review for the three categories we're pitching for both retailers, and it was impossible to line up. And so, I think it was professionally not great. We kind of pushed the seat at the table, but I know on a personal level, people were like, you know what, you did what it kind of took to stand out.
Yeah.
And so, I think to anyone leading any idea or any vision or any organization, it is our job. It is your job to figure out how to get the vision across, even if it, is a bit left of center.
My question's around that vision, the purpose. A lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, CEOs, talk about purpose, their vision, what they're trying to do. But you've really built it into the DNA of your business, the governance, and how you do that. What does governance look like at Thankyou when profit isn't the end goal? Like, how do you deal with the day-to-day? It's a different P&L. It's a different leadership. There's something different about the fact that it serves a different purpose. So how do you manage that?
The word that comes to mind is tension. There is a tension between running a sustainable and profitable enterprise, of which you could almost argue for Thankyou, it is all about profit. It's just what we do with that profit is different, right? So ultimately, and for those that are interested, our business is owned 100% by a charitable trust. So we set that up. Founders don't get equity or shares, and there are no kind of traditional investors involved in this. So you could argue it's all for the profit. It's just that profit is all for a mission. That's the purpose. And so we're quite commercial because we're thinking, how do we maximize profit? The cool thing is that profit makes an impact. And I would say that one of the tensions that we wrestle with is, and particularly for the accountants on the call, thinking, oh, yeah, but, profit, you can there's a few ways to manage that each year. Well, we're in the business of giving, and we remind ourselves that we are here to give and to maximize that. And so one of the tensions we face at a board level, almost every board meeting, is this tension between reinvestment and strength of the core and giving. Because, a director once said to me, Daniel, you have to understand, coming from a business perspective, every time you give, you're kind of weakening the strength of the tree, in the sort of the analogy of your base, your balance sheet. And, if a storm comes and I kind of got it. And I was like, wow, so every time we're giving, we're weakening, except this is why we do what we do. And it isn't easy. And I will say that there are other tensions, like when you look at supply chain ethics and sustainability, and well, if we invest more here, then what does that do to profitability? And I mean, there are tensions when you're impact led or values led, there are tensions all day, every day. Every business has them. What I would say about purpose, going back to the framing of this, we would see purpose not as the paint on the outside. Purpose is the fuel on the inside.
Yeah.
And I think where a lot of businesses and leaders get it wrong is they're like, all right, well, purpose is a thing. Apparently, it engages your staff better and your stakeholders and your customers. So comes the purpose paint. And I think
Yeah,
people
yeah.
get really disappointed, right? Because they put the paint on, they're like, we did it. Like, what? It's not, the paint's not working. And it's because for those customers and team members, if it is paint, we're a smart lot. You can smell a fresh coat of purpose paint. It's an inside out. It's a fuel. It's the thing that gets the people on the inside waking up to relentlessly solve problems for a mission bigger than just profit. And so you got to think of it like that. And that helps you manage the tension a lot easier, because you don't see giving or purpose as a tax, a tax you have to pay. You see it as the right to play and the right to lead and the right to move forward.
So you went into Coles and Woolies with 3 products. You've now got way more than that. So yes, your product range is grown. Take us through that journey of, okay, you're in the boardroom or the creatives are getting around. We've got, Woolies and Coles on board, and you're like, we got to grow the product range. So what was those conversations like? What was the next product? What were the 3 products first and foremost? And then how did you then go, okay, we got to expand? So we're talking about revenue growth generally, and there's many ways to do that: increasing your product, increasing your prices, going to different geographies, so on and so forth. When you went the product route and then obviously other things that came out of that, take us through the first 3 products, and then what was the next 3 or 4 when the ideas started to flow through, and how did that become so successful?
Let me give you the kind of the warts and all, because when we started in bottled water. And it was the silliest product. And we said that from day one. We said it shouldn't exist. But if we're all going to spend money on it, and like, get this, today, none of us buy bottled water, right? But today it's a $500 billion industry. Australia's 1.5 billion, right? So it's like, okay. So we value convenience as consumers, and we thought bottled water would be an interesting way to teach people thank you, right? Taking the money from consumption and excess and righting a wrong, the world water crisis. 4,500 kids dying every day from waterborne disease. Like, that shouldn't exist. And here's a way to help solve that. And I think we thought naively, 3-4 months, this thing will be working, and then we'll just launch other thank you products. But it took 5 years, right? And that was 5 years until, 3 years to get into 7-Eleven, and that really helped us break through in Australia Post. And then year 5 is when we ran the Coles and Woolworths campaign. And as part of that campaign, we launched Beyond Water into food. and into personal care. And really for us, they were ideas. They were ideas like in personal care, you and I, we wash our hands, we shower, we watch body wash every day. And the idea was, could we turn that moment into something way more impactful and meaningful? And food, same thing. We would at breakfast or lunch, and our initial food products were muesli bars, and oats, rolled oats. And it was interesting because when we launched all three categories at once, e- everyone had mixed views on what would work. I mean, the retailers thought water and food, that'll work. Your body care thing won't. In fact, it was almost the opposite. Body care ended up becoming the number one hand wash for 5 years. And even to this day, if you go into, Coles and Woolies, it is, I mean, it's massive. We're still the number one premium hand wash range in Coles. We're, I think, number three in the category a couple of weeks ago. It's a sizable business. And I think for us, our view on growth was simple. If we get the product right, turns out that's really hard. But if we get the product right, and it's hard because you're up against massive brands who also wake up to get their product right and to beat your product and to rip it off shelf. So if we get the product right, Thankyou is an idea, it's not a product. It could go across anything. That was our sort of perspective. And so we've tested and learned, and boy, oh boy, has it been a roller coaster journey. I would say our growth strategy is new categories and new countries. So getting Thankyou into, so in answer to your question, once those hand washes were working and the first few muesli and muesli bars, we added more flavors, more variants. And so that concept was pretty linear. Take what's working and grow it. And then in time, a view was, well, we'll take what's working into more regions, so geographies. And at the same time, we'll have teams focus on whole new categories. So good think you pop up in X, Y, or Z. And really, our last 7 or 8 years has been, I won't say lost, it's been invested in ideas and learning and refining. It's been a heck of a journey, a lot harder than I and we ever anticipated. I think the fruit that may come from this journey will be world-class innovation popping up in a surprising way in new categories and new countries. It's the same idea we started with. It's just we're 17 years in. It's taken a lot to learn to get the model right and to figure out how to win at scale.
And take us through the conflict that you may have in the product development. Because if I'm I'm not a product developer, but I'd be like, people should just buy our product because it goes to a good cause. How do you manage the people that are trying to create the product, going, no, 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 the product still has to be a class winner or a category winner, because even though we are leading in impact and trying to, encourage people to buy our products to go somewhere for a good cause, they won't come back if it doesn't do the job right. So how do you challenge, do they, I wouldn't say the word lazy, but do you have to kind of remind your product developers to keep pushing and creating the best product, and remember that, if we win, it goes to a good cause. Don't lead with buy our product because it goes to a good cause. And how do you manage that?
Look, I don't think we've ever had any lazy people in the thank you
I
ecosystem.
love it.
But in part because genuinely, everyone who works on this, you get this feeling. I don't, it's not just me. You get this feeling of like, oh, we're doing something for humanity. Like this has got to be good. So there's a natural sort of, that's been pretty cool to witness actually. In fact, there's a VC fund, big investor guy came through our office and he knew he couldn't invest. But after the tour, he said, okay, I've been watching you and watching Thankyou. He said to me, what is it? What's the secret? How do you guys keep, because our data showed we were out innovating all of our competitors at a huge rate. Like our innovation at one point was 2 to 3 times more successful. And there was some really cool studies done and he was jumping in on that. That's why I'm the mission, I suppose. Like we're here to, help end poverty. And I think, and he's like, couldn't be that. It's not, fund charities, and no disrespect, but some of those charities, their culture's horrible and they're not innovating. They're just, it's not going anywhere. Can't just be the mission. And it was really, I didn't have any answers for him, but on reflection, he was right and wrong. Or maybe I spent more time sort of thinking about this. Where we kind of ultimately realized is that when you wake up as a human to do work that's higher than you and for the service of others, it's like salt in a meal. Like you have two meals, one's got salt, one doesn't, one tastes better. It brings out something. And so the mission will not sell the product better. That's an interesting, we can dive down that. When we launched oats, that failed straight away. And we're like, oats are oats. These are Thankyou oats, and they provide a week's worth of food to someone in need. And it's like, surely oats would have flown, and it didn't. Our more technical products that we nailed, they flew. So Thankyou, we have two rules. Rule 1, make great product. Rule 2, never break rule 1. And rule 2 has an asterisk, and it says never use a good cause to sell an average product.
Love that.
And that is our mantra. Now, I'd love to claim that we came up with it. We didn't. It's from an amazing book. If you're listening along, the book is called Do Purpose, Why Brands That Do Good Matter More. And it's a great book. It's one of those like picture books with words. So you can get through it real fast. But genuinely, that rule is our guiding principle for everyone across Thankyou. It's like, hey, do not use a good cause to sell an average product. Because like you said, yeah, someone might try it because they hear about some sort of mission, but if it does not deliver, game over.
You talked about the VC guy walking through and he said, something's doing something unique here. You're obviously amplifying the purpose, the mission through what you do, right? For those business owners that are listening, obviously not everyone can be Thankyou and work for charity and so on. And those people might do a lot of good for charity and giving. How do the guys that are running businesses that are for profit to shareholders really amplify that purpose so it doesn't smell like fresh paint?
This is not a quick process. I can't offer silver bullets here, but I would say, and to lean on Simon Sinek's work, start with why. And for those that aren't familiar, great TED Talk. I mean, great book, great everything. But really what he speaks of is that when you know why you do what you do, it changes everything. I mean, it builds resilience and helps you get up and go again. I think it'll help you innovate better. And let's pick, I don't know, Apple. I mean, Apple's not a charity. Apple's not like they're just a charity and they're a cause. I would, argue they're very missional or purpose driven. Their purpose may sound completely different to Thankyou's, but what they've done is they've pushed humanity forward in a whole bunch of products and ideas, and turns out we're all, well, billions of us are using it and buying into that story of pioneering, of innovation, and definitely it's purpose and on purpose. It just looks different. And so, I'd say for every business leader, it's figuring out, why do we do what we do, and does that matter? And then also, how do we get other people to see that and to buy into that?
Hey, let me tell you about a new initiative that we're doing at Alexander Spencer for our bottom line listeners. I've done over 100 interviews with business owners on the bottom line and advised thousands of clients at Alexander Spencer. And what I see is that a lot of business owners are leaving revenue on the table and not maximizing their profits. And I'm offering 5 bottom line listeners the opportunity to sit with me for some real specific advice. We're going to dive into your business, your strategies, your goals, dive deep into the financials and see where you're leaving money on the table. So if you're a Melbourne-based business owner and you're interested to sit with me one-on-one, click the link below and sign up now. Be warned, there will be only 5 slots available, so get in fast and don't miss this opportunity. Back to the show. I want to talk about transparency and the challenge around accountability. So you're in terms of giving to charity, being a purpose-led organization that is giving in that sense, how do you measure and communicate the impact in a way that builds trust with consumers, retailers, and partners? Like, do you show the work, the money that goes to these places? Do you have a separate way of communicating the impact that the funds are making, and just to build that trust? Because this feels like, there's when one or two charities like that don't do the right thing, it impacts the whole ecosystem of giving. How do you measure that, and how do you communicate to your audience around the impact you're actually making?
This is very difficult. When we started, and for many years, we ran a system called Track Your Impact. And it actually was the perfect answer to this question. In fact, it would have had everyone on the call, and listening in pretty impressed. It won us a lot of awards, particularly in marketing. And the way it worked, so every single product we ever sold had its own unique tracker code. No two products the same ever. You put that code into the website Track Your Impact, and it would show you the GPS coordinates of the well or the filter or the maternal infant health program that you funded. And the coolest bit is that after showing you what you're funding, once it was finished, we'd email you like a year or two later and say, hey, you probably forgot the day you bought the product, but we didn't. And here is the final field report of that project and what happened. Now, this was the same level of reporting that a high net worth donor would get from, a big contribution. We're giving to like micro donors. We love this. I mean, it's the perfect answer. But we ran into a really interesting conundrum. At our core, we're not marketers. We market, but we're mission led, we're purpose led. And we ran into this world where we realized, and there's a really interesting report that came out by a group called Open Road Alliance, and they do really big studies in nonprofit. And they bubbled up some shocking research that 46% of issues that charities and nonprofits face come from the donor. 4% come from theft and corruption. Now, in my head, and if you're listening, you probably would think it's the opposite of that. And so there's this thing that called sort of loosely the donor dysfunction. And if anyone wants to dive deep, we've released a 20,000 word kind of paper on this, and it's titled "The System's Broken, We Helped Break It." And it speaks to donor dysfunction, some of the challenges that come with money. And the best analogy that just will quickly land this for someone is, let's say you offered to pay for your friend's heart surgery, which is a generous thing to do. So as a donor, you're like, I'll pay. It would be weird if the heart surgeon turned up and you said to that surgeon, it's my money. Here's how I want you to do it. We wouldn't do that. But in charity, wow, everyone does. Here's how I want it done, and here's how I perceive impact. And it's a really tricky game. In business, we would never put money into, let's say, Tesla, right? So you buy some Tesla stock. You can't call up anyone there or Elon and say, "Hey, it's my money that I'm putting in. I don't want my money to go into marketing or exec salaries, or I don't want my money going in an idea that might fail." That's not how it works. And so you've got business and medicine, which is light years ahead. But philanthropy is in the dark ages because of this dysfunction. And so we were really, really like conflicted, because we're like, we know what the solution is. It's this thing called unrestricted giving. It's the equivalent of like backing Tesla, backing their vision, backing their leadership, putting their money in. And then if they deliver results, you might double down on that investment. It's doing the same in philanthropy, but guess what it means? It means walking away from Track Your Impact, because we can no longer tie money directly to this well, that well, this. And boy, oh boy, I mean, we've walked away. You can jump on our website, you can see we've done it over probably 10, 11, maybe nearly $12 million of unrestricted giving. It's some of the most valuable money in philanthropy. It's important money. And ultimately, we believe lead to better innovation. It'll lead to better impact. But it has meant that for some people, they're like, oh, well, I don't know, it seems a bit general.
Yeah.
Welcome to purpose-led versus marketing award-led.
So how do you do it? So let's run an example. You got $10 million in the bank. You've had a good quarter or good month, and we're like, okay,
A very good month.
let's take it through. So do you just pick a charity? Do you pick an organization? Do you set the charities up? Do you have a subcommittee that talks about the impact you want to have globally, that maybe different products to have different impact? Talk us through, now that you're sitting around the room, it's not business, it's money that you're going to purpose on impact. How do you do it for our listeners that are buying the product? They want to get a bit more of a feel of how it then has the impact, and how do you choose and how do you run it?
Okay, well, it turns out we could almost do a whole podcast on this because as complicated as it is to make a great product, get that to market, and win against the big, the big guys, it's kind of just as complicated to give well. We have an amazing leader, Pete Yao, who's our head of impact, works alongside Justine, myself, and others, and he's done an amazing job, I think, at providing that strategy and framework on what's the problem in the world and what's the change we seek to make, and then what's the strategy behind that, like what do we fund and how. And those listening along may not realize it, but there's a lot
Mm,
of charities. Like America has 1 million registered charities. That's America. Australia's got tens of thousands. Globally, it's undocumented, no one knows. We would get hit up daily, weekly with like, can we fund this and that? And we can't. We don't have enough money. And also we've tried to focus on this real focus for us around those living in extreme poverty, which is people living on less than $2.15 USD a day currently. And so we've got our kind of framework on where we're trying to target the money, and then we're open to groups to fund. Now, when we say we're open, we actually don't take unsolicited proposals. We usually go through referrals. So either we find someone from our research, or they're connected to us through referral. And we use those referral partners to sort of help us wade through like who are the most impactful organizations. It's the same way if you're investing money, you're like, where are the best investments? What's going to get the best return? It's the same thinking. And then we don't just throw money and go, well, we made an impact. No, actually, we go through a due diligence process where we deeply look at an entire organization, their history, their present, their future. That's a big process. We usually will test fund, and then beyond that, you know, in no different to if you back a good investment and it's getting great results and they're proving that, we will double down on that. Equally, if it's not getting great impact and results, we walk away. And so, we're forever thinking about that cohort of people we're backing. We're not to say the people we're backing are the only good people out there. I mean, if we had 100 times the funding, we could do much more work. But that's a little window into the world of Thankyou. And on our website, you can see who we're funding, their milestones, how they define success, and then when they hit it and when they miss it. And we're transparent about that. This is the real world, and we're looking for the courageous pioneers who are delivering impact. And I think of like an Amazon's a really interesting example. Amazon's built scale, and you could love them, hate them, argue all day long, but they've absolutely built scale. But everything they didn't work. I think Jeff Bezos got up once and said that we're pulling the phone thing. It's like $100 million. We're going to write that off. I'm like, man, imagine in charity. A charity gets up, hey, we tried something, didn't quite work. We're going to write off $100 million. Everyone would be like, burn that, burn them.
yeah. Whose head are we chopping? Yeah, yeah. It's full on, wouldn't it?
But it's the exact opposite in Silicon Valley. It's almost celebrated. It's like, hey, that
Correct.
didn't work, but here's what we learned, and here's how we're innovating. And so we're part of unrestricted funding is like we're okay launching ideas and backing partners who
Things
learn,
wrong.
who 100% is foolishness, like literal foolishness to think that you can solve problems as complex as extreme poverty through simple steps that work 100% of the time. I mean, if that was the case, the world wouldn't look like how it does today.
I'm assuming that you've been to some of these places where you've had an impact, where you've actually changed villages, people's lives, and you can actually see the money that has helped. I'm assuming you've been to these places. Can you just take us maybe to a moment where you got off the plane? It could be in a third world country, what it was, and what you saw and what impact you had, and just take us through the feelings you felt at the time. I just love to hear a story that resonates to our listeners. Just how, because we don't get the feelings you would get in visiting those places, and people that are backing your product. I'd love for you to articulate just the feelings that they should have in the impact that you have, and take us through a story of something that you've seen.
It's hard to pick a favorite. And I think what's hard to understand, even on a computer screen, I mean, we started Thankyou, and I'd only seen videos of dirty water and, kids walking to collect it. But one day at this trip, Justine and Jared and I, we went over to a country called Burundi. At the time, it was the fifth poorest in the world, and Burundi's had a rough run. A lot of people are like, oh, why poverty? And you know, we need to open our eyes a little bit. And Cambodia, which was one of the first countries we traveled to, is definitely worth a. I mean, I think their history is quite recent. You had a leader, Pol Pot, who decided to kill a lot of people, wipe out nearly a million, if I've got it right, but many, many. And when you walk through those mass grave sites from not too long ago, you start to get a context of why our country is in poverty. Because their leaders did some things that are incomprehensible. And Burundi was no different. I mean, different context, but it's a country that had a really rough start. And I met this boy, Vianney, and we walked down this mountain to where he used to collect water. I've seen this stuff in a video before, but the videos don't show you the smell and the heat and the sort of how on earth are we living in a world where this is okay. And Vianney would collect the water for his family, for his mum. It was, he was not just the sort of the big brother. He was ultimately the oldest male in the family, and he was being, you know, super brother, super son, and he would walk this water home, and that water would make him sick, and from that comes waterborne disease, and there's obviously the risk of death, but also things like you can't go to school when you're sick, and it's just his life before, and then through our partner, that community had a gravity-fed water system that tapped into the spring water inside the mountain. I was like, we tap into spring water in Australia to get the water out to sell Thankyou water. Like, this is just, I mean, it makes sense. Tap into the water that's there. And amazing to think that right behind that mountain was beautiful, clean water. But without access to it, you're literally like drinking something that could kill you. And it was a special day. I mean, it was memorable. We did a running race at the end, me and him, and that's a story for another day. But like it was just it was a very human moment.
Yeah.
And I think I walked away from that being like, wow, like, Vianney is one of many dreamers. He's got dreams. He had dreams. He's got dreams. We've all got dreams. We've all got ideas of what we would like our life to look like. I just think for many of the world, 900 and sort of over 900 million right now, you barely get a chance to dream when literally you are waking up going, I need food, I need water, I need safety, and I want to somehow find education, and basic human rights. And so I think we should live in a world where not just Vianney, but everyone gets a fair shot at, chasing the dream and living a life. And every human has dignity and deserves it. And that's why we do what we do.
That's such a beautiful story. And what you do is amazing. You, your wife, the founders have built this amazing thing. What made you get into it? Was when you were little, is it something you saw? Was it the World Vision commercials? There's something special about you and your wife and the people that founded it, the originals. Take us through why. Like, what's your why? Where's the moment? What was the little? Where's Daniel at his 7 years old? It's got to be something that made you go down this path.
Yeah, I mean, there's many, and I actually think for all of us answering this question of why do we do what we do, one of the great hacks is to look back over your life and look at the moments that moved you, and they moved you maybe to tears or emotion or anger, like a justice anger. And when I look back over my life, there is a series of moments, something incredibly like that Vianney moment, like that is like visceral memory stuck there forever. We could debate all day out. Hey, relax. It's just a moment. I'm like, man, it's changed my life. Like, you will never unconvince me to do what I'm doing. That's a moment. But, I mean, credit to World Vision. I mean, the World Vision ads, everyone's like, oh, they're always putting back in the day these sort of, really tragic situations in front of you. It's like, well, yeah, because someone's got to show it. And I'd sponsored a child through World Vision with a couple of friends. I think we all chipped in our teenage years. So that was cool. I mean, in fairness, I thought I ticked the box. That focus on my career, my future, and then one day you give back once you got money. But that was definitely formative in the starting of Thankyou. Those that know our story, I mean, I was meant to be doing a uni assignment. I'm sitting in front of my computer with tears streaming down my face because I'm watching stories of kids who don't have access to clean water, and they literally talked about siblings dying. And for me, the sort of the tears just streamed because it was moving. But I was thinking, man, it's not my story, but if it was my story, my sisters Jess and Mel, they would have died from the water I got them. What? And like I would have grown up and someone would have informed me it was the water I got him. And I remember thinking, oh, this is so wrecked. And I couldn't unsee another number that said at the time we were spending $50 billion a year on bottled water. It was just sort of this like, that doesn't, no. And why can't one serve the other, right? So that was a moment. And at the same time, I mean, I was 19 when we started. I was on a very big personal, I suppose, faith journey of like, I was asking big questions, man. Like, why are we here? Why am I here? I grew up in a home where my parents had a faith and believed in God, and I think I went on my own zigzag journey of, is that real, or what do I believe? And really for me, thank you has now become an outliving of my values, and this is it's not a job. It's But I did this interview with Mark Boris, and he said something that no one had ever phrased before. He's like, Daniel, it's like you're a missionary. It's like yeah. I was like, okay, your words, not mine, but I don't mind it. Like it's living for others, which I think is an important thing. I think we can all do it and find a way to do it. So for me, this goes deep from moments that have moved me to those foundations of faith and maybe how I see the world and how I think we should contribute. And even some of my heroes are all those that, when I look back of like who's really inspired me in history, they're the figures that kind of laid down their life for others, that didn't do it for awards or for stages. They just went all in to help. And I think that's awesome.
What you do is amazing. You're changing lives on a daily basis. We're getting to the end of the podcast, but I want to flip it a little bit around. Just business owners have an exit strategy. So I'm a partner in an accountancy firm, and a lot of our conversation is what is the end game and what do you want to do? And I want to say this, and it's really weird saying it in this episode. 95% or 100% of our clients or business owners or entrepreneurs are similar to what you just said. Make lots of money, have a big exit, increase enterprise value, send my kids to private school, have a family wealth that can be passed on to generations. And it's very money led, but for them and their family. And then they think of charity later. And we've got some really successful clients that have done philanthropy post. They want to leave a legacy that is about giving, but they feel to do that, they need to make it to themselves first. And a lot of them have this big payday, the sell my business for 100 million, 50 million, and then I'll do charity. And a lot of them want to be able to have the life that they want to live. So a lot of them don't want to do the payday when they're 70. A fair chunk of them want to exit, in their 30s or 40s or even 50s. Most of them want to do it before they're 50 so they can have the fruits of their labor and live. I'm just reflecting on those conversations I have with my clients and how I would have those conversations with you, because your end game is time. Your end game is more, make more, to give more, to have more impact. And if you stop, you're handing it to someone else. So if you were to exit Thankyou, who's going to be your legacy? Who's going to take it? So it's pretty deep, but I'm thinking, how are you at such a young age going to make sure that Thankyou lives forever,
Mm,
globally, bigger
mm.
impact, larger impact, but also at the same time you'll have a baby coming, looking after your own family? And how do you manage that? And what does that look like? Is Daniel going to be doing this forever? Are you going to be the Jeff Bezos of Thankyou for what it is?
So this has been such a personal journey, and the more we've got into this, the more we've realized, like, man, what a privilege. Like, you walk with Vianney, you see the scale of what's happening, and you're like, wow. There's this feeling of stewardship. And I actually love that from day one, ever since we set up the structure, we took exit, this concept kind of off the table. Like, one day, if I exit, literally, that's it. Like, someone else can run it. There is no payday. It's just that's how it works. And 40, 50, 60, 70 years, how long they'll have me here. That's it. That's the exit, which is really interesting. It has also, I think, affected decisions for the better, because we're thinking about end game, well, not end game, long game. we're thinking really about an infinite game. And
The infinite game. I was just about to quote Simon Sinek, the infinite game. Keep going.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah, it's a love. We love. Someone said it could say anything. I'm pretty much in at this point. Like infinite game. It's so good. Leaders eat last. I'm like, let's do that. I think how do you set something up the right way to make the ultimate impact? I mean, that shift from track your impact to, unrestricted funding, that was the right call. Painful call. If you're trying to exit a business and build up value with consumers, you would not do that. You would just sort of go, get out, do some good later. That was the right call for something that could have a chance at existing 50 years from today and 100 years from today. And, I think in this new culture of business, and it is quite new, because there was a time where businesses and enterprises were really thought about as like intergenerational. Going to New Zealand was fascinating, learning about Māori culture and how they think in multi generations. It's like 8 generations time, or like some cultures have just thought a lot longer. And I think in this sort of like get in, high valuation, get out, and it's a game, and you know the game, and you play the game, and you play it well with others who play it, and it's not all bad. In fact, if you meet any of these people that also want to do philanthropy with their big chunks of money, we'll help them. Give us a call. Give us a call. But I think for us, it's really about thinking about the long game, and it's been the further we've got in, this hasn't got harder. It's got more humbling. It's got more of a weight of responsibility and a sense of like stewardship. And you know, our family have, I would say we've been blessed in the process, partly because the impact is what it is. Big dreams for the family, get the kids to a good school, and you know, um, I've been driving a Tesla for years, and Dad, our son's like, Dad, you gotta stop calling it a Tesla because it's not a Tesla. I'm like, Jed, don't wreck the dream. This is the Tesla. It's a Ford Mondeo at the time, but we got rid of it. But and at some point, there's probably no problem with that. But I think it has been a reframing of success, and it's been a reframing of impact. And I think everyone should go on their own journey. This has been ours, and yeah, it's been personal, but very, very humbling.
Daniel, the purpose is giving, having impact. But I'm assuming, I didn't ask how many staff you have, but the operations must be huge and there's lots of people that are helping you make this. And they have to buy into the impact. But at the same time, you are all in as a family and you're doing what you're doing. But some of your employees will have their own journeys of what they're trying to achieve, whether it's, maybe sending money home to the Philippines or to Thailand, or they have a sick grandmother, or their parents need a home. And for them, money is important, or their growth in their journey of their personal growth is important. How do you manage paying staff well? Because you want to incentivize,
Mm.
you want to give them performance metrics, KPIs. And if they do well, you want to reward them financially because it's important with the cost of living, especially in Australia, how it's gone. How do you have those conversations and in terms of performance and then money? Because if you pay all your staff, if everyone got 10% more, and let's say there's, it could be millions of dollars that could have impact. How do you have that conversation? Is that different at Thankyou compared to what it would be like in a corporate?
I mean, it's a very interesting debate. My critique of the nonprofit sector, social enterprise world, and it's not actually a critique of the world. It's the critique of everyone's expectations on that world. Is we would have no issues high level exec getting paid an infinite amount of money to sell a sugar soft drink that sort of kind of wrecks the world. No issue. In fact, go for it. Tobacco, even better, like more money. It's just
Yeah. Shareholders, pay
you
them
know what I
more,
mean?
give them more. Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
exact same time, sorry, what you're doing charity work and you're making a 6-figure salary? Nah. It's a really interesting sort of conundrum. And my challenge to all of us is it's that idea that is probably keeping the world trapped in some really tricky problems. That it's that thinking that's really seeing sort of like some weird things really get to scale, right?
Yeah.
Like there is probably more sugar soft drink in remote regions in the world that still don't have clean water, and that's because this model's incentivized to grow, and it's figured it out really well. And the clean water things, like, well, we're going to get charities go in there and do their work. And so to me, I'm like, we've got a massive problem here. My personal view, and then there's what we actually do at Thankyou. My personal view is we should absolutely pay people really well in this space, reward them, and they should be able to come do their life's best work. And in fact, the more impact you make, in fact, that 10% more could equal more results. And if it does, you can get paid 20%, 30% more. Let's go. Now, I look forward to that day when everyone's like, I agree, you and me agree. Basically, not
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
agree.
not everyone else does. And so I think our tension, my salary, for example, is set independently by our, a remuneration committee, and it's pegged to nonprofit sector, and I, that's right for who we are, where we're at. Do I think that's a good idea? I'm a champion of the idea. I think it's a broken idea when I play that out, right? So I think this is something that the world and we have to wrestle with. And I think the world's got to change in many ways. This is definitely one of them.
Daniel, I just want to say thank you so much for doing what you do. It's been amazing to listen to the journey. I'm a buyer of the product. Actually, my wife's the buyer of the product. I get to use it. So we do definitely support the thank you journey. But I just want to say a big thank you from all our listeners and the broader community in Australia of what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I just want to say thank you for joining me on The Bottom Line.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an awesome conversation, so thank you.
This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. This podcast was produced by accountancy firm Alexander Spencer. At Alexander Spencer, we've been helping business owners realise their goals since 1952. And we play a pivotal role in developing, implementing, and supervising the business goals and strategies of our clients. To find out how we can help your business succeed, head to our website, alexanderspencer.com.au. To make sure you don't miss an episode of The Bottom Line, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm Savan Tuna, and we'll be back next episode with more tips to help you transform your business. And that's The Bottom Line.